Thank you very much, Professor Popov. I would like to thank everybody in this gathering, and I will be speaking as one of the secretaries of the Russian Union of Journalists, and also as a newly appointed member of the Russian Public Chamber. The Public Chamber is a consultative body, a council body. We call it Parliament 2.0. It is essentially a public forum attended by public opinion leaders, by representatives of NGOs. Its chair is appointed directly by the Russian president. The chamber also includes representatives of Russia's various regions that make up the country, the Russian Federation. In this capacity, I would like to actually come out with a statement, with an announcement. Russia is now engaged in a heavily fought information warfare, and it's not just between the global centers of decision-making, such as Washington, Brussels, Beijing, Moscow, and other capitals around the world, where there is information competition going on, of course, and rivalry, if you will. But there is also this bigger opposition and more vehement combat, more vehement warfare waged against the forces that are hostile to civilization as such, the forces of extremism. Unfortunately, some of the countries that are supposed to be waging that war jointly, they may not share all of the political ideas, and I'm sure even the countries represented in this room may not align with each other on many political issues. But we are united in recognizing terrorism as a vital threat to the international community, and one of the things that it threatens us as journalists is exactly the threat to the free speech that it represents, and that is vital to us as journalists. But within the context of these ideological differences between the different countries, united by this common cause and this common threat, still there are various opinions, and not everybody is objective. We understand that it's not always possible to not be prejudiced, but still we need to bear in mind that journalism cannot be used as a weapon. And journalism cannot be used as a weapon of deceit. It cannot be used as a weapon of misinformation. And of course, this brings us to issues such as the Syrian conflict or the recent conflict in Libya. Do we know a lot of journalists who would actually come out and say publicly the truth about the so-called white helmets, this organization, this group in Syria, who reported this dramatic lack of medical supplies in the besieged eastern Aleppo. But I happen to be engaged in the workings of a Russian humanitarian organization, and one of our people was there in Aleppo right after its liberation by the Syrian government troops, and he saw warehouses full of medical supplies there, which were there okay, but still the whole world went with the white helmet story and spread that word about this lack of medical supplies. So back in the events in Libya, Gaddafi was actually discussing a political reform with his entourage, and possibly even an adoption of a constitution that did not exist in Libya. Who was reported on this? I did, because I was there in Libya at the time. The rest of the media ignored these facts. Who did it help that the media ignored all these developments in Libya under Gaddafi? They could have covered them, even framing it in their own way, like casting it in their own perception. They were free to interpret their, but at least they could have reported it. Not to mention the fact that these days, very often mass media actually provide the floor to extremists and giving them an opportunity to address a broader audience without questioning their message, what they say. So I believe that the international community, the international journalism community, must come up with some kind of measures to offer to counter this wave of fake news, of fake news stories that are being pitched and spun around en masse these days. There is a good way to go about this and a bad way to go about this. And as a secretary of Russia's Union of Journalists, I can tell you what the bad way would be, and that is overregulate the area of media, put up too many rules for how you can say things, how you're supposed, or how you may not say things. Oh, how helpful would that be in stopping these flows of fake news? Strategically, we would only rechannel them online from mainstream and traditional media. We would only suppress them, and they would go online where they would go uncontrolled, where they would run free from almost any administrative or government control. So even though I represent a formal organization, I still have to admit that regulatory methods, introducing rules and censorship, it's not efficient. It's time we resorted to other kinds of means. What we need to do is use forums such as this one to develop and devise mechanisms for reputation building and reputation assessment, because reputation is the most efficient institution in the world of media, and it is the most efficient tool for assessing the validity, the credibility of a certain news story or a news source, to assess whether what's coming from it is fake news or not. This could exist within the professional writing community, as well as in the relations between the writing community, the journalists, and the newsmakers, the politicians, the talking heads, the public figures. As well, I don't need to tell you that the journalism community plays a vital role in building reputations or in tanking someone's reputations. So I would like to once again express gratitude to this strategic group for discussing these vital issues, and it's important in these kind of discussions that we can come up with certain solutions to improve this catastrophic situation with the spread of extremist content in mass media, and ensuring that the media stop working for the cause of extremism, for increasing tensions, and started working to remedy relations. Thank you.